What's the difference between you and Becky third generation barrel racer's grandma? Her grandma didn't give up. So why should you? What's up everyone, I'm Amber, and if you've been following me on social media, then you know that I like to stir the Karens pot within the Karenocracy, the brew, if you will. But today I wanted to talk about a topic that I see brought up especially amongst a lot of the young riders today. And that is, you must have lots of money to win in this sport. Well, I'm here to tell you no. That is unequivocally false. As a first generation barrel racer who didn't come from a horse background, you could say I have had some moderate success chasing cans. It is 100% possible to be successful in this sport regardless of the background you come from. So if you're driving a truck that needed an oil change 5,000 miles ago, you are pulling a sardine can of a horse trailer with your 6D backyard plug and back, sit down and let's have a chat. I won't go too deep into my backstory, we'll save that for another video. But my very first horse was an ex-hunter jumper named Star, who I rode in 4-H, who would barely get out of the 5D. Again, I didn't come from a horse background. How did I go from that to this? It has to do with the three pillars that make up the foundation of success within this sport. These three things are so equal, you cannot have one without the other. However, the first is something that will probably make a lot of people click away from this video. So if you are truly ready to grow and succeed in the sport of barrel racing, sit tight and listen closely. Dearies. The three most important things that you're going to need to succeed in the sport of barrel racing is sacrifice, training routine, and mindset. This is something that even Fallon Taylor has mentioned years in the past, where she has noticed a lot of young riders unwilling to make really tough decisions to succeed in this sport. And one of those tough decisions, and I really hate to say this, is your horse the one holding you back? I too have seen this so often where a lot of young riders, like, yes, the only horse that they can afford is that one horse, their first horse that may be running 6D. But you have to ask yourself, do you need to take that next step, sell that horse to someone else who that horse will be their step-up horse so that you can then succeed in the sport and get a better horse? And I know that's a tough decision to make. I mean, I myself have had to make a lot of really tough decisions in the past where I did sell horses that I did feel were holding me back. It's like I was running, you could say 1D local, right? And the next horse that I brought up, I really wanted to have a second backup horse, but I wanted my backup horse to be just as good as this horse that I was running. But that horse, she just could not break out of the 3D. She was a 3D queen, don't get me wrong. She was super consistent, but I needed that next step. I wanted to not just be 1D local, I wanted to be 1D, top 600 plus entries 1D level. And that 3D horse just wasn't gonna get me there, even though we had her since she was, say, like 2 years old. And at that point, I believe she was like 15 or something like that. But you have to make these tough calls if you want to succeed, and you have to weigh the pros and cons. So say you can afford your first horse and a second horse, right? If that's what you can do, then congratulations. However, if you are one of the few people who can only afford to have one horse, you've got to weigh the pros and cons of owning that horse versus selling it and buying a step up. So the pros to keeping that horse, what are those? That would be, you get to keep the horse. Number one, you get to keep the horse. So what is the cons of keeping that horse? One, you are prolonging the deadline to your success. You're giving yourself, say, like, however long that horse lives, or however long or however many years it takes for you to afford the next horse, that's how long you're prolonging your ability to grow in this sport. And not only are you prolonging your ability to grow in the sport, you're prolonging the opportunities and risking those opportunities and losing out on them because you are keeping that slower horse versus stepping up. That is something so many people don't consider when keeping their older horse. And I understand, I'm not saying, sell your older horse, by any means, but if all you can afford to say, like, you've got a 10, 12-year-old horse that is, you know, not performing to the level that you are at, that's where you're gonna have to make a call as to whether or not you can keep that animal. And I get it, I totally do. I have those horses that I absolutely refuse to sell. However, I am in a position that I can afford to keep those animals and then add on to my herd. Something else too that I see that other people are, you know, intentionally holding themselves back is they have that one horse that they don't want to sell, and that's fine, and they have the ability to buy another horse, but they don't want to take away from that horse because they are getting another horse. That is not how this works. If you manage your time correctly, you can equally apply time to both of these horses, and it would, you know, behoove you to not, like, why would you not want to have a second horse on your string that could take you to the next level? So what do these opportunities look like that a faster horse would give you versus your slower horse that they couldn't give you? So your faster horse, if you buy a horse and you train it and it starts winning 2D and 1D locally, other people are going to see that. They look at your slower horse and they go, yeah, that horse is nice and consistent, but they're not going to approach you for like training opportunities or riding their horses for them. That's another that's another thing that you can also take into consideration. If you can't afford another horse, you might be able to go out and jockey for someone else. But you have to be able to jockey a good horse, and the only way that you're going to be able to show that is if you, one, have one horse on hand, or two, someone really believes in your riding ability regardless of the horse that you are currently riding. But a faster horse that you trained yourself, that you got to the top, that is what's going to open up far more opportunities versus that 6D horse that you just refuse to let go of. Those are just some of the things you're going to have to consider when keeping your slower horse versus buying the step-up horse. And if you can't afford to buy that step-up horse, well, guess what? There are so many nice horses out there that are within your budget. There truly are. They're hard to find, but they are. Now, are you going to have to train that animal? Yes, absolutely. This is, again, where sacrifice comes in. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of time off your phone. This is a big one for especially you young kids. Get off your phone, get out in the arena, and train your horse. You're also going to have to learn how to train a horse. I wasn't a horse trainer when I first started. Believe me, I didn't know what I was doing, but I got from, again, barely making the 5th place in the Pee-wee to we won a world championship. It can be done. There is no excuse as to why it can't. So the reason why you say you can't is because you are putting those limitations on yourself. And why would you? It is all about sacrifice. How bad do you want to be a $1 million rider? Is that your goal? Define your goals. If it's to be a $1 million rider, well, you're gonna have to make some really tough decisions. But those are the decisions that you're going to have to make in order to be successful in this sport. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. Number 2, training routine, your horse's fitness and nutrition. These things are so important. You have no freaking idea. So I hate to say it, but riding your horse 2, maybe 3 times a week for 15-20 minutes is not going to cut it. You can't just go out there and lope, 20 big circles, trot, for 5 minutes or whatever and be done. The worst thing you can also do is get out there and immediately start loping. No, proper warm-up is key in order to being a successful trainer, rider, jockey, horseman, all of it. Proper warm-up, please. What does a proper warm-up routine look like? I like to do anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes of walking in the beginning. While I'm doing that, I'm again doing lots of tight circles, and you don't want to start with this workout routine immediately. You're going to have to increment it, over time, say like 2 months. Every day you add just a little bit more to their training, or every week I should say, you add a little bit more to their workout routine versus the last day. I do 8 to 10 minutes of walking, 15 to 20 minutes of long trotting, and then 15 to 20 minutes of loping. And as I'm doing all of these gaits, I am working big circles, small circles. I am doing lots and lots of stretching on my horses. These are all things that are so important to getting your horse to perform at their peak level of performance. This is something else too that I really want to stress to a lot of you guys. If you have a 3D horse, just by applying a proper workout routine, you could probably get that horse from the 3D to the 2D. Not lying. And so you've got a 2D local horse, just by getting them fit, and when I say fit, you can move them from the 2D to the 1D. You might not need to get another horse. There's not some magic trick that's going to make your horse work faster or harder. No, it's just hard work. Hard work and consistent work. That's what's going to get your horse out of the 3D and into the 2D, and from the 2D into the 1D. You will have to pardon the lighting change. My cows got out. A big part of your training as well, and something that a lot of people overlook, is your horse's diet. I cannot stress enough the importance of an anti-inflammatory diet. I don't think a lot of people understand, like molasses, corn, soy, any kind of starch or sugar is going to cause inflammation within the hoof. So things like distiller dried grains, even rice bran, because rice bran, what that is it's the hulls of the rice. So what do the hulls of the rice carry? All of the chemicals that are sprayed on the rice. So those chemicals can cause inflammation within the horse. So a lot of times you'll probably see like soy, corn, your rice bran, all of those things are going to have inflammation or inflammatory properties in them because of the chemicals. So rice bran, corn, sugar, molasses, anything like that, I avoid. My horses are strictly on an all forage diet with anti-inflammatory in mind. So my horses, like, I mix all my own supplements. I get my glucosamine, MSM, biotin, hyaluronic acid, all of those things. I get the raw ingredient from bulksupplements.com. I get Vermont Blend as the mainstay of their vitamins and minerals. And then I also do a lot of silver lining stuff as well. You can use code MISFIT for 10% off if you are interested in silver lining products. They are amazing. It's just the raw ingredient and none of the fillers that in many cases will counteract the ingredient or what that supplement is supposed to help with. As for the bulk of my horse's diet is alfalfa, and then I throw out some just grass hay to just kind of mix it up, because I am a firm believer that, you know, grass hay, different grasses carry different nutrient levels. And so if you can get a mixed grass hay with your alfalfa, the mixed grass hay, you know, they're going to get the nutrients that they need from the different grasses within that hay. And so I have to feed less supplements versus someone who maybe strictly only feeds one type of hay, and then they have to add a bunch more supplements that the other grasses would otherwise have. So keep that in mind. Mindset. This is one that is so dang important if you want to succeed in barrel racing. You have to be able to drown out the noise. Yes, there's a lot of drama that goes on in barrel racing. I know we like to pick on it when it comes to social media and stuff. However, I want to point out there's drama in every single industry. The reason why we see it so much in barrel racing is because barrel racing, honestly, it's so easy for anyone to get into. It's so accessible for anyone to start barrel racing. It doesn't matter what breed they have. It doesn't matter where their background came from. It doesn't matter anything. If you've got a horse, you can go around 3 cans. And generally with that comes a lot of bad apples. And so that's why we see a lot more drama in the barrel racing world, I feel like, versus other disciplines, or at least it's highlighted more in the barrel racing versus other disciplines, because I feel like we have more participants in our sport versus dressage and Western pleasure that are a lot more expensive to get into. So you have to be willing and able to drown out the noise. You have to develop a thick skin, and this is going to happen over time. And most importantly, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to put yourself in situations where it's hard to overcome, but you can overcome it. This is something that I will probably make a standalone video on, because there's so much we can talk about in in just on this subject alone. So if you want to see that video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe so you can get notified of it in the future. And that is so true when it comes to wanting to be successful in this sport. You're scared of, say, like getting a step-up horse. You're gonna have to get yourself to get over that. And the only way you're going to do that is just make yourself do it. All of these things that I'm talking about, they're not impossible, they are just hard. And you have to be able to make yourself overcome it. You have to mentally become tough. That is incredibly hard to do. But with practice and with building your mental toughness over challenges that you may otherwise have avoided, and by making yourself do that, you're going to build your mental toughness. And then as life goes on, tough decisions become just a little bit easier. Like I said, we could talk a lot on that subject. And I know I spent the majority of this video on the step-up horse aspect of it, but that is such an important step because it is one that so many people are just unwilling to take. Because again, you have to define your goals. What do your goals look like? Does that current horse that you have match up with those goals? If not, then you're gonna have to make that tough call. Does your current horse, doesn't matter if you run the 40 or the 1D, are you treating that horse like an athlete? Are you feeding them like the athlete that they are? And mindset. You have to have a strong mindset in order to succeed in this sport because it is so difficult and it is so challenging. You have to rely on discipline and not motivation because motivation, it is just an emotion. It is going to change. Discipline will be there forever. Just because you're the foundation does not mean it can't be built on. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week, it may not be next month, but maybe the month after that, the next year, you too may find yourself beating Becky, third generation barrel racer, with her $300,000 rig full of top 1D horses. You too can be there, but you have to be willing to, again, be that foundation from which you can build on. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share this video, leave a comment down below, and I will see you all in the next one. And until then, work hard, stay misfits.